Welcome to the Agency Navigators podcast. I'm Lo.
I'm Don.
I'm Cayla.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Lindsey.
Hey, we've got a great group of our team members here today, and we are continuing a series on building transferable value. As we mentioned before, last year I undertook the challenge of becoming a certified exit planner. We don't do valuations or any of that, but we want to be prepared to have the conversations with our agency partners and the industry on how to build agency value today,
As well as something that's transferable for the future.
and it's so very important. And today, what we found were there are 11 value drivers that drive transferable value. And this podcast series is actually taking each value driver, and we're going through it and applying it to the independent insurance agency space. We have our team of experts with us, and we're going to dive in just as we have before. And first and foremost, when we look at the influence of operating systems, life within an independent insurance agency is a grind. You okay, Lindsey, Adam? Have we not heard that from our agency partners?
Absolutely. It's very, it can become a lot, especially when life gets busy of other factors outside of the agency.
Without a doubt. And how many times do we push our agency owners? Yes, sales are always, we're all about growth, and we are all about retention. And then there's carrier management and operating systems, and the owner ends up being the operating system.
Well, absolutely. The number of operating systems within the typical agency is far beyond what we think about. And within each area, there, if you just take sales, how many procedures do we have in a standard renewal? Not like the billing, we've just started with accounting and finance.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to turn to Lindsey on that one. Lindsey, how many accounting protocols, procedures, systems? What's it like? You've been in the seat for 25 years. What's it like?
There are countless systems, and if you're not careful, everybody will be using different procedures for every function. And if one person leaves, nobody else knows how to perform anything.
Well said. And that's, that brings up a really good point, because we've seen this. Different people will have a different way of doing the same function.
Human nature.
And Adam, how are those technology systems?
Oh, they can be a handful, that's for sure. Especially if you're doing rotation, you're upgrading to new ones, things like that, and you're trying to port things over. You have legacy systems active, and you have things that are disconnected. It can become quite a rat's nest, so to speak, very quickly.
Perfect analogy. And so then what we find, especially with our agency partners, they're so busy with growth, with client retention management, with all the carrier, what we said, that the systems just keep getting pushed aside. So they're not intentional, and they're not documented. And in worst case scenarios, they simply just revolve around the owner.
Yeah, I think oftentimes this is an area that gets pushed down the priority list. It's not all fun top. No, but is there a lot of value that can be created by having these systems? Absolutely.
It can also be hard to pass it off when you're the one that's, having to jump in a lot of times to fight the fire. How often do we find ourselves like we're the worst person to give it away because we're the person that resolved it in the first place? So sometimes you're also not the best person to make the, new process to be able to pass it off. Like you have to ask for help to get that list, rolling.
And that's a really good point, Kay, because this happened to me yesterday. I got in the way of, we do it at home in business. We're business owners. We run like an agency, and I asked our assistant to handle something, and I saw text messages go back and forth. So I jumped in and said, no, we're not doing it that way. Well, turns out I was wrong, and I didn't trust the process, and I owned it. I said, oh, sorry. I should have trusted the process, because there were other things going on, I need to remove myself. I need to trust the process and let the team do what they need to do. So look, and that segue, let's go. Why does it matter today? Why? What's the big value?
We have to be able to continue business on an ongoing basis. And what I mean by that is if we take out the owner or one of the key people at an agency, do we fall apart? And I think oftentimes, maybe fall apart is a bit strong. I think we suffer. And why would that be? Because operating procedures often live in people's heads and are not documented anywhere. Mm-hmm. And that is a real risk. We talk about our agencies being risk managers. We all live, almost everybody lives with that risk that there's so many of these standard operating procedures live in the owners and the managers and the team members. It's in their heads. It's not anywhere else. And that's a risk.
And team, chime in on this one. What I've seen is even with agency CFO, after years and years of really strong growth, the systems get bigger and more complex and more team members are added. And, Cayla doing an earnings call is different than Lindsey doing an earnings call, different than Shauna, Don. It's all a little different. And we are becoming very mindful of that in documenting it, because we've learned from our agency partners.
There's a value to consistency.
Yeah.
And we see this all the time is if your sales team went out, would they tell a consistent message, a consistent value proposition? Your insureds get, depending who the account manager they speak with, are they getting a consistent experience? There's a lot of value in getting that consistency.
I was just going to say, I think it's also setting the fundamentals, like you said, the consistency. So in our case, if we're on an earnings call, we might explain it differently, but we should still be covering, let's say, the 5 key points. So I think as you're looking at making your own processes, it's saying, okay, what's the fundamentals that we have to cover in this? Because it can be really daunting when you think about every single detail that has to be built into a process. Like sometimes we stop from building it because we know it's going to take too long or it feels like too overwhelming to build it.
Human nature.
Absolutely.
Human nature. And I wanted to tap into Lindsey on this one as well, because Lindsey, it's no secret, comes from a very, very large corporate environment. And she was in an independent agency, which got bought out by one of the big boys on the block. Lindsey, what did you see in that transition of systems and people and sometimes chaos, right?
Yeah. Overseeing 35 accounting professionals who all came from different agencies or were originating from one office. Everybody did everything differently, and trying to standardize anything was a challenge. And in talking to people from different agencies who all had nuances to their agencies and the niche that they covered, trying to establish a standard procedure for anything was tough. And it was even tougher to get people to adhere to it because they had been doing things one way for so long that they were resistant to any sort of change because they didn't think it would work for their agency, their legacy agency, and the processes they have before. So I understood the importance of standardizing it and convince people to move forward eventually, but we really have to get people to see the why. And have a very clearly defined procedure, because if they don't understand why it needs to happen, it's not going to happen.
I like that a lot. It is the human nature. That's really, really insightful. And by doing this now, today, what does it lead us to tomorrow? It's not easy, but it needs to be done.
Transferability ultimately, so that we can take out any one or multiple people out of an agency and things in that experience doesn't change. Just because we take somebody out, we take a piece of part of the agency, we should remain that consistency should continue on. So can we create and experiences and processes that will transfer, that are independent of the people.
And that will lead to your normalized cash flow, your EBITDA, all your
Absolutely.
reduces risk, all of it. And just as a reminder, you may be listening to this podcast only via audio. If you go to our YouTube channel, we have the video slide. We have slides up on video. Well, reach out to us. We're happy to have this conversation. And rumor has it Adam's trying to get us set up so that other platforms have our video, right, Adam?
Yep, that's true.
Always improving our systems. So how do you track these operating systems? Lindsey, do you want to take this one?
Sure. If you're looking at your operating systems today, do you have standardized workflows for renewals, endorsements, cancellations, or is everybody doing everything their own way? Can you document sales and onboarding procedures? How are you tracking your commission and reconciling it? And how are you tracking it and reconciling it? Or is it going in one GL and sitting there? How do you track your expenses? Do you follow your budget? How closely do you follow your budget and update it and forecast? And what system do you have? What technology do you have? And is everybody using it?
Really, really pretty basic, but yet very difficult.
Yeah, they may sound like fundamentals, and I came up and said, why do they call them fundamental? Because if you don't do them, life isn't going to be any fun.
It's been a very CFO thing.
Yeah.
Saying,
They're necessary, absolutely necessary.
without a doubt. All right, Kay, let's hit them hard. What do we got for red flag?
I'm going to switch my approach and I'm going to say, you're probably listening to this saying, I have systems in place. I've got people doing that already. We're all set up. This isn't an issue. So I'm going to ask you, does this sound like you? At the end of the month, do you feel like you're tight on cash? It never feels like you have enough? Or do you feel that the profit margins aren't what your cash picture says? Do you feel that things are kind of in a Band-Aid? I'm going to call it a Band-Aid process. Do we find quick fixes so that we can move fast and be really nimble and move forward in this, I'm going to say in the cost of sales, to make the sale, to make the experience better? Do we just make quick fixes? Someone goes on vacation. Do you feel like, we're going to have a really rough week this week? Or I can't leave on vacation because who's going to take care of that? Do you feel like you're the one that's always, as the agency owner, do you think that, problems don't happen unless you pinpoint it? Are you always the one to raise the alarm and say things wrong here? Most important one, how often have you seen a report and say, yeah, we have retention reporting. We have new business reporting. We have these reports. I don't trust them. I don't know if the data's right. I don't know if this looks good. If you said yes to any of those questions, you have an internal processing issue.
Yikes, that was really good. Well done. Because we have literally heard all of those statements on our calls. So, and again, if you know Agency CFO, we have a whole mastery program. Our agency partners have multiple calls a month with us that are pre-scheduled, and we become very invested. We really immerse ourselves. So we do hear this a lot. All right, let's go to Adam. What are some of our key elements? What do we want? We know what those red flags are. What do we want?
Yeah, for sure. So, those red flags, that's essentially, as you mentioned, you used a good word earlier, that's chaos. That's a lot of mental chatter for somebody to have to worry about when they want to, take some time off, go on their weekend, or plan for an exit, things like that. So in order to avoid all of that, one of the things that you really want to build in is a nice foundation, the nice building blocks to build all of these things we're talking about off of. And one of the things about key operating systems is, they cost money to set up and maintain and everything, but essentially they should be making you money. They should be driving cash flow. They should be doing a lot of things for you. But there's key main elements: standardizing your workflows for your service renewals, endorsements, being able to document your sales onboarding processes so you can teach those very easily down the line, client retention and renewal management systems, because as we know, retention is very key, very fundamental to continuing to grow and scale your business. You commission tracking and reconciliation systems because you want to know where your money is, where it's coming in, and how you're using it. Again, expense management and budgeting discipline. Again, those technology systems, you want to utilize those things fully. I know there's a lot of bright, shiny things out on the market nowadays, especially when it comes to AI and things like that. Everybody has an idea that the new technology that they find might be that band-aid that they want or that shortcut that they're looking for. At the end of the day, there are no shortcuts. It's always about doing the work, doing it right, and doing it in a repeatable way over and over again. And you want to be able to share that knowledge, transfer it to all of your new people. So really what you want to do is kind of look at this list that we have up on the screen here. Again, if you're listening to it, we do have it. We did list off all the items. So just kind of, again, make those lists in your head where you did with Cayla. Do you have any of those problems? Here, look at it and say, do I really truly have this stuff locked down? If I don't, what are the small steps to make it that way? Again, we can always give you a hand in that as well.
Well said. And really, really what we face every day, because most agencies have systems, but not always operating systems. It's consistency, it's reduced dependency, and it's really, in the end, down the road, everyone exits someday. What does that buyer due diligence scrutiny look like?
Absolutely. If you put yourself in the perspective, if you were buying the agency, how would you feel about its ability just to run on a consistent, ongoing basis?
In the end, it comes down, all of this builds cash flow. When things run smoothly, when they're dependable, you have cash flow. And my favorite statement is cash flow improves when systems are intentional, not incidental. Big difference.
I think the key word is systematic. There's a lot of value in having systematic processes today, as well as systematic for the future.
There you go. So as always, thank you so much for joining us. Please follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Reach out to us. We are happy to have conversations. We have a few open slots in our mastery program. We have an incredible team of experts here to serve, to help not only this value driver, but all your value drivers for the benefit today and tomorrow. Final thoughts, Kay?
Don't let this inhibit your sales and service engine. This should always boost it. So if you ever feel like you're spending too much time in this area, like the great way to tell is this boosting top line and also helping us retain?
Get to know your operating systems, because a lot of them are actually Swiss Army knives behind the scene. Instead of getting one operating system for one thing, another thing for one thing, and trying to tie them all together in the background, a lot of these, in a lot of cases, have a lot of the stuff you're looking for already. You just have to fully utilize it.
Initiating your operating systems and making sure you have procedures for everything may seem like a huge lift initially, but once you have them in place, it's going to make everything more efficient and your business is going to grow from it.
Well said. And your final thoughts?
I always like to say, I'm going to end it today with be consistently financially well.
All right. Thank you so much, Johnny.